When Spider-Man swung into theaters on May 3, 2002, superhero movies changed forever. Directed by Sam Raimi, the film combines spectacular action with a surprisingly human story about an awkward young man suddenly given extraordinary powers. Audiences loved Tobey Maguire's vulnerable Peter Parker, Kirsten Dunst's Mary Jane Watson, Willem Dafoe's terrifying Green Goblin, and the unforgettable message that with great power comes great responsibility. The movie became one of the biggest hits of 2002 and launched a trilogy that helped define superhero cinema for an entire generation. Now, 24 years have passed since Peter Parker first put on the Spider-Man suit. Some cast members became even bigger Hollywood stars. Several returned to the Spider-Man universe decades later. And sadly, a few familiar faces are no longer with us. So, what really happened to the cast of Spider-Man? Let's see where they are now. 1. Tobey Maguire, Peter Parker / Spider-Man. Quiet, intelligent, and painfully shy, Peter Parker was not the typical action hero when audiences first met him. Tobey Maguire was 26 years old when Spider-Man was released in 2002. Peter was an ordinary student living with his Aunt May and Uncle Ben when a genetically altered spider bite changed his life. Suddenly able to climb walls, sense danger, and display incredible strength, Peter learned the hard way that having power also meant accepting responsibility. Maguire's emotional performance made Peter feel vulnerable even behind the mask. Born June 27, 1975, Tobey Maguire is 51 years old in 2026. After completing Sam Raimi's trilogy, he appeared in films including Brothers and The Great Gatsby, while becoming more selective about acting. Then, in 2021, fans received the reunion they had hoped for when Maguire returned as Peter Parker in Spider-Man: No Way Home. 2 decades later, his Spider-Man remains one of the most beloved versions of the character. 2. Kirsten Dunst, Mary Jane Watson. Warm, ambitious, and hiding more pain than Peter initially realized, Mary Jane Watson was the girl Peter Parker had loved for years. Kirsten Dunst was 20 years old when the movie reached theaters, having turned 20 just days before its release. Mary Jane lived next door to Peter and dreamed of becoming an actress. Although Peter struggled to tell her how he felt, their complicated relationship became the emotional center of the trilogy. Dunst gave Mary Jane a combination of confidence and vulnerability that made the character far more than simply Spider-Man's love interest. Born April 30th, 1982, Kirsten Dunst is 44 years old in 2026. After the trilogy, she continued building an acclaimed career with movies and television projects including Melancholia, Fargo, and The Power of the Dog, which earned her an Academy Award nomination. For a generation of moviegoers, however, Dunst will always be remembered as the Mary Jane who looked into Spider-Man's upside-down mask during one of superhero cinema's most famous kisses. 3. Willem Dafoe, Norman Osborn / Green Goblin. Brilliant, powerful, and increasingly terrifying, Norman Osborn became one of the most memorable comic book villains of the early 2000s. Willem Dafoe was 46 years old when Spider-Man opened. Norman was the wealthy scientist and father of Peter's best friend, Harry Osborn. After testing an experimental performance enhancer on himself, his personality fractured and the violent Green Goblin emerged. Dafoe could shift from Norman's controlled manner to the Goblin's madness in seconds, giving the villain an unpredictable intensity. Born July 22, 1955, Willem Dafoe is 71 years old in 2026. His career has remained remarkably active, with acclaimed performances in films including The Florida Project, The Lighthouse, and Poor Things. In 2021, Dafoe unexpectedly returned as Norman Osborn in Spider-Man: No Way Home. Nearly 20 years after his original appearance, he once again proved why his Green Goblin remains one of Spider-Man's most frightening movie enemies. 4. James Franco, Harry Osborn. Peter Parker's closest friend was Harry Osborn, the wealthy but emotionally troubled son of Norman Osborn. James Franco was 24 years old when Spider-Man was released. Harry cared about Peter but struggled with his complicated relationship with his father. He also developed feelings for Mary Jane, creating tension between the two friends. After Norman's death, Harry's belief that Spider-Man was responsible placed him on a darker path that continued through the later films. Franco went on to star in major movies including 127 Hours, Pineapple Express, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and The Disaster Artist. He also worked as a director, writer, and producer. Born April 19, 1978, James Franco is 48 years old in 2026. His career became far less prominent in Hollywood during the late 2010s, though he later resumed acting in independent and international projects. For Spider-Man fans, Harry Osborn remains one of the most important characters of the original trilogy. 5. Rosemary Harris, Aunt May Parker. Gentle, wise, and quietly stronger than almost anyone around her, Aunt May provided Peter Parker with the emotional support he desperately needed. Rosemary Harris was 74 years old when Spider-Man was released. May raised Peter alongside Uncle Ben and continued guiding him after tragedy struck the family. Although she did not know Peter's secret identity, many of her conversations seemed to give him exactly the advice Spider-Man needed. Harris brought enormous warmth and dignity to the role. Born September 19, 1927, Rosemary Harris is 98 years old as of August 2026. Long before Spider-Man, she had already built a celebrated career on stage and screen, earning Tony, Emmy, and Golden Globe honors. She returned as Aunt May in both Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3. For fans of the Raimi trilogy, Harris remains one of the most beloved versions of Aunt May, especially because of the quiet compassion she brought to Peter's difficult journey. 6. Cliff Robertson, Uncle Ben Parker. Uncle Ben had limited screen time, but his influence shaped everything Peter Parker became. Cliff Robertson was 78 years old when Spider-Man arrived in theaters. Ben was Peter's loving uncle and father figure. He understood that Peter was going through a difficult period and tried to guide him without forcing him. His warning that with great power comes great responsibility became the moral foundation of Peter's life. After Peter selfishly allowed a criminal to escape, Ben was killed, leaving Peter with guilt that would define his decision to become Spider-Man. Robertson was already an Academy Award-winning veteran with a career stretching back decades. Cliff Robertson passed away on September 10, 2011, one day after his 88th birthday. He died of natural causes. Even though Uncle Ben appeared only briefly compared with other characters, Robertson's performance became one of the most emotionally important parts of the entire trilogy. 7. J.K. Simmons J. Jonah Jameson. Loud, impatient, and absolutely convinced that Spider-Man was a menace, Jonah Jameson stole almost every scene he entered. J.K. Simmons was 47 years old when the movie was released. As editor-in-chief of the Daily Bugle, Jameson wanted photographs of Spider-Man while simultaneously publishing headlines attacking him. Peter eventually began selling him pictures without revealing that the photographer and Spider-Man were the same person. Simmons' rapid-fire delivery and explosive temper turned Jameson into a fan favorite. Born January 9, 1955, J.K. Simmons is 71 years old in 2026. His career grew enormously after the Raimi trilogy. He won an Academy Award for Whiplash and continued working across film, television, and voice acting. In one of the biggest surprises for longtime fans, Simmons returned as another version of Jonah Jameson in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. For many viewers, nobody else has ever captured the character quite like him. 8. Joe Manganiello, Flash Thompson. Before Peter Parker fought supervillains, one of his biggest problems was school bully Flash Thompson. Joe Manganiello was only 25 years old when Spider-Man was released. Flash was Mary Jane's boyfriend at the beginning of the movie and regularly bullied Peter. Everything changed after Peter received his spider powers. During their famous school confrontation, Peter suddenly discovered that Flash could barely touch him. The role was Manganiello's first major feature film appearance. Born December 28, 1976, Joe Manganiello is 49 years old in 2026. His career later grew considerably. He became especially well known as Werewolf Alcide Ervo on HBO's True Blood and appeared in films including Magic Mike and Magic Mike XXL. Manganiello also returned briefly as Flash in Spider-Man 3. Looking back today, it is interesting to see a future Hollywood leading man starting his movie career as one of Peter Parker's most unpleasant classmates. 9. Elizabeth Banks, Betty Brant. Long before becoming a major actress, director, and producer, Elizabeth Banks had a small but memorable role at the Daily Bugle. Banks was 28 years old when Spider-Man opened. She played Betty Brant, Jonah Jameson's secretary, and one of the few people in the newspaper office who generally treated Peter kindly. Betty often found herself surrounded by Jameson's yelling and Peter's attempts to sell photographs of Spider-Man. Banks returned for both sequels, gradually becoming a familiar part of the Daily Bugle scenes. Born February 10, 1974, Elizabeth Banks is 52 years old in 2026. After Spider-Man, her career expanded dramatically. She appeared in the Hunger Games films, the Pitch Perfect series, and numerous comedies before moving successfully into directing and producing. Her Betty Brant role was relatively small, but seeing Banks in the original film today offers a fun glimpse of a future major Hollywood name before her biggest successes arrived. 10. Bill Nunn, Joseph Robbie Robertson. Calm, thoughtful, and far more reasonable than his boss, Robbie Robertson provided balance inside the chaotic Daily Bugle newsroom. Bill Nunn was 48 years old when Spider-Man was released. Robbie served as one of Jonah Jameson's trusted employees and often seemed more willing to consider Spider-Man's good intentions. While Jameson immediately wanted sensational headlines, Robbie usually approached situations with greater patience. Nunn reprised the role in both sequels and became another familiar face throughout the trilogy. He had already enjoyed a long career before Spider-Man, including memorable appearances in Spike Lee films such as Do the Right Thing. Bill Nunn passed away on September 24, 2016, at the age of 62 after battling leukemia. His understated performance as Robbie made him an important part of the Daily Bugle team. Among all the shouting and newspaper chaos, Robbie was often the person who seemed to understand Peter and Spider-Man better than anyone else in the office. 11. Ted Raimi, Hoffman. One of Jonah Jameson's constantly pressured employees was Hoffman, played by Ted Raimi. Raimi was 36 years old when the movie reached theaters. Hoffman often appeared beside Jameson at the Daily Bugle, trying to keep up with his boss's rapid-fire demands and impossible expectations. Although the character had relatively little screen time, Ted Raimi's comic reactions fit perfectly with J.K. Simmons' energetic performance. He returned in the later films and became a recognizable supporting face for fans of the trilogy. Born December 14, 1965, Ted Raimi is 60 years old in 2026. He has continued acting in film and television and has frequently worked on projects connected with his brother, director Sam Raimi. His credits extend far beyond Spider-Man, particularly in horror and fantasy productions. Hoffman may never have had Spider-Man's powers, but surviving a workday with Jonah Jameson sometimes looked almost as difficult as fighting the Green Goblin. 12. Bruce Campbell, wrestling announcer. Bruce Campbell appeared only briefly in the first film, but longtime Sam Raimi fans immediately recognized him. Campbell was 43 years old when Spider-Man was released. He played the wrestling announcer who introduced Peter Parker during his attempt to earn money using his new abilities. When Peter entered under the name The Human Spider, Campbell's character decided that was not exciting enough and announced him instead as the Amazing Spider-Man. In other words, he effectively gave Peter his famous superhero name. Born June 22, 1958, Bruce Campbell is 68 years old in 2026. Campbell was already a cult film icon because of his role as Ash Williams in Sam Raimi's Evil Dead series. He returned in completely different cameo roles in Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3, creating a fun tradition across the trilogy. His first appearance was short, but without his wrestling announcer, Peter might have remained the human spider. 13. Randy Savage, Bonesaw McGraw. Before Peter Parker ever faced the Green Goblin, he had to survive 3 minutes in a wrestling cage with Bonesaw McGraw. Professional wrestling legend Randy Savage was 49 years old when Spider-Man was released. Bonesaw was enormous, aggressive, and completely confident that the skinny teenager standing across from him would not last. Peter, using his new spider abilities, quickly discovered otherwise. Savage's booming voice and larger-than-life personality made the scene one of the film's funniest and most memorable early sequences. Known worldwide as Macho Man Randy Savage, he had already become one of professional wrestling's biggest stars during the 1980s and 1990s. Randy Savage passed away on May 20th, 2011, at the age of 58 after suffering a heart attack while driving. His appearance in Spider-Man lasted only a few minutes, but Bonesaw is Ready remains instantly recognizable to fans more than 2 decades later. 14. Michael Papajohn, Dennis Carradine. One of the smallest roles in the movie became essential to Peter Parker's entire story. Michael Papajohn was 37 years old when Spider-Man was released. He played Dennis Carradine, the criminal Peter deliberately allowed to escape after being cheated by a wrestling promoter. Peter believed the man was someone else's problem. Then, shortly afterward, he discovered that Uncle Ben had been killed and Carradine was connected to the crime. That moment taught Peter the devastating lesson that refusing to use his abilities responsibly could have consequences. Born November 7, 1964, Michael Papajohn is 61 years old as of August 2026. He continued working extensively as an actor and stunt performer in major Hollywood productions and later returned to the Spider-Man trilogy in another appearance. Carradine had limited screen time, but the character's actions set Peter on the path toward becoming a true hero. 15. Jerry Becker, Maximilian Fargas. The pressure surrounding Norman Osborn did not come only from the Green Goblin personality inside his mind. Veteran actor Jerry Becker played Maximilian Fargas, one of the Oscorp board members. Becker was 51 years old when Spider-Man was released. Fargas participated in the boardroom scenes in which Norman learned that the company he built was effectively being taken away from him. That betrayal helped push Norman's unstable Green Goblin personality even further, leading to one of the film's most dramatic attacks. Becker had enjoyed a long career as a character actor before joining Spider-Man, appearing in films such as Man on the Moon, Donnie Brasco, and Happiness. Jerry Becker passed away on April 13, 2019, at the age of 68 from complications related to diabetes. His role was small, but the Oscorp boardroom storyline played an important part in transforming Norman Osborn's personal crisis into the Green Goblin's violent revenge. 24 years later. It is remarkable to think that 24 years have passed since Tobey Maguire first swung between the buildings of New York City. Maguire is now 51. Kirsten Dunst is in her 40s. Willem Dafoe and J.K. Simmons are both in their 70s, while Rosemary Harris is approaching 100. Some members of the cast became major stars. Others continued long careers as character actors, and several unexpectedly returned to the Spider-Man universe many years later. And sadly, Cliff Robertson, Bill Nunn, Randy Savage, Jerry Becker, and other familiar performers are no longer with us. Yet Sam Raimi's Spider-Man still feels special. Peter discovering his powers, Uncle Ben's final advice, the upside-down kiss, the Green Goblin flying over New York, and Spider-Man swinging through Manhattan remain unforgettable images for a generation that watched superhero cinema enter a new era. Who was your favorite character in the original Spider-Man? And do you remember the first time you watched Tobey Maguire put on the suit? Share your memories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed seeing the cast then and now, please like the video and subscribe for more updates on the classic movies and television shows we still love.